Okay, so we have a panel of industry experts here that work in different environments of the data center domain. I'm going to have each one of them introduce themselves first, and then give 2 minutes about their company, what they do. Obviously, we've already heard from Carrie, so we'll introduce yourself again, maybe tell a little bit about your company, and then we'll go down the line and we'll start with questions from that perspective.
We're just passing it along.
Okay, it looks like we have one mic here, the expense that we spared. So.
Well, it was either multiple mics or sandwiches, so I guess they prefer the sandwiches. My name is Carrie Higbie, and I'm the Global Director of Data Center Solutions and Services at the Siemon Company. We are a cable and connectivity manufacturer, but my particular job is working with end users doing data center design, infrastructure audits, data center audits, all that kind of good stuff, and working with the standards and also all of the active electronics manufacturers.
My name is Keith Jackson. I'm the Eastern Regional Sales Director with Raritan. Raritan has been in the IT space for over 25 years. We focus on infrastructure management, energy management, and DSIM software. Our solutions create great efficiencies in the data center, especially around capacity planning and energy management.
Vincent Pelly with CitiHub. We're an IT consultancy. We're in New York, London, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Dubai. We focus on data center efficiency, data center buy versus build for our customers, primarily in the financial services space. We're also pretty deep in market data and low latency networks. We have a general consulting practice, as well as a data security practice.
My name is Axel Kretschmer. I'm with Schneider Electric. I'm the Regional Director for Systems Engineers at that company. And if you know Schneider Electric, we are a very large global company. Our mantra or vision is energy management, making it safe, reliable, productive, efficient, and green. And we own very many brands that you probably know, like APC, MGE, Square D, PowerLogic, and that's all part of our groups of products that we're trying to build help build data centers that are easy to maintain, easy to operate, and are very reliable.
Good afternoon, my name is Jeff Hecht. I'm the Regional Sales Manager for Vigilent Corporation. We concentrate specifically on the cooling aspects of a data center and providing the first artificial intelligence adaptive control system for cooling within the data center.
Great, thank you. So a lot of great expertise here. I told them we want to make this interactive. We want to see them wrestle down to the ground when they disagree with things. So let's start with a fairly broad question to the panel there. So first part is, what are you seeing from enterprises that's driving demand from a data center perspective? And as you think about architecture and infrastructure, what are some of the new requirements that you're seeing as they go out to look at whether it be power, cooling, any other of the technology, infrastructure deployment inside the data center? So demand, and what do you see changing? We'll start at that end first. Why don't we change the order?
One of the things that we found is that a large number of our clients, data centers are overcooled. And trying to reach some of the new ASHRAE standards like 80.6 at the inlet side of the rack is something that's very scary to most people. And having a tool that allows you to be able to do that and reach those levels of efficiency is something that we're able to provide. We do that independently as well as in conjunction with companies like Schneider and Raritan by utilizing some of their sensors and some of their data in order to feed our system.
Why don't we just go right on down the panel?
Okay, so one of the things that we're seeing is one of the trends is consolidation. Many more large, extra large data centers are being built versus small, medium scales all over the place. There's a lot of that going on, as well as a lot of trend to economization on all sides. ASHRAE 90.1, if you're familiar with it, is going to become law sooner or later locally. And I see a lot of trends, people looking into making their cooling very efficient and maximizing what they can get for quote-unquote free cooling.
So we're seeing a lot of our clients that are actually moving to a private cloud. And the impact there within the data center is a lot of consolidation. We're seeing a lot of physical servers moving to highly dense blade servers, which obviously is impacting power and cooling within the data center and redesigning how the data center space looks. So a lot of work around private cloud implementation. We're finding that is taking off fairly rapidly.
Yeah, we're seeing very similar trends. The power requirements in data center are really skyrocketing, where we used to walk in and see a 2 kW or 5 kW rack. That's now 30 kW, and we realize a lot of organizations are not equipped and they don't have the infrastructure and capacity available to manage the increased density in the data center. So we're seeing trends away from single-phase 120 into 3-phase 220 and 400 volts to get more power to the rack and more capacity out of existing data centers.
I guess kind of to reiterate what they said, a lot of what we're seeing, especially internationally, is large consolidation projects just for the efficiencies. And probably I think efficiency is the big word that we see, whether it be from an IT perspective, an infrastructure perspective, cooling perspective, or even a personnel expense perspective. There's no company that says, here's more, do less. We always, everybody strives to do more, so that is driving up bandwidth. It's definitely changing the way we design and lay out data centers and look at the data center space as a whole. And I think probably the biggest shift is getting all of those different budget silos and all those different departments to start thinking of the data center as an ecosystem where people actually do talk to each other.
Yeah, to your point, Carrie, it's a lot of converging going on between different budgetary silos, right? IT facilities, building management. It's all growing. It's all going together, and that requires, of course, new software platforms.
They all have to play well together on the playground.
We've yet to see the internal real estate departments play with the IT groups. We've seen many debates in conference rooms going over how much power IT is demanding for a new facility and what the real estate folks are saying you're not getting.
Exactly.
Okay, and that's a problem because IT understands the business requirement. And the guys who want to build these huge facilities don't get it. That's my take on it.
Well, depending geographically where they go,
I've already lost control. Well, panel, this is great. I've lost control.
Or did you want to participate?
This is great. Keep going. This is beautiful.
So the argument often comes down with, how do I get more with less, right? How can I get more out of my existing infrastructure? And that requires really a deep understanding of what you already have. We find we walk into a lot of data centers, and because there's no instrumentation, they don't even understand their capacity. So you've got to benchmark and monitor it closely before you can start making.
So Keith, that's a great point. So I've heard all these talk about consolidation. Every CIO I speak about is talking about some type of data center consolidation going from 10 to 2. But what happens? I've got this legacy data center that it's not very well powered. It's got some cooling challenges. Can I upgrade that facility? I mean, what do you recommend to clients you work with, and what do you do with those legacy data centers?
Sure. The clients that we work with, it gets very expensive if you're going to wholesale upgrade that. It's also expensive to move to a new data center. So unfortunately, you're forced to utilize what you have. So we look for efficiencies within the existing infrastructure. And the biggest one that we find is that most customers don't know what they have. They don't have an understanding. They don't have a benchmark. A lot of the data centers were planned around derated nameplate data, and they're using that as a guideline. Once we put granular instrumentation at the U level, then they can really understand, hey, you know what, I do have additional capacity. And they can start to make intelligent changes around getting the most out of what they already have without a forklift overhaul.
And I think that's true, especially from a virtualization standpoint, because you have to monitor what you have, because you might be end-of-lifing your most efficient pieces of equipment. So it's not really about CPU utilization anymore. It's more an equation of CPU utilization to what you're actually getting out of that box.
Exactly. You need to be able to look at the rack and understand, is this a Prius or is it a Hummer, right? What kind of mileage am I getting out of this IT equipment?
So you made a good point that the key word is benchmarking. I like when you say that, because that's really the key to do anything about efficiency going forward, right? You have to know where you are, where you stand. And it also includes, of course, the power distribution upstream, right? Switchgear, UPSs, your cooling plant, all that. You have to have some means of creating a benchmark and then measure yourself against it.
And a lot of time you end up with a stopgap too. You might have one facility that's near capacity. You might go to a colo facility for additional services or to take advantage of WAN as a service, kind of like you guys do, so that you've got something to get you there. And there's typically, I think, the migration cycle for where you are today at capacity is definitely changing for where you're going to be in 5 years, and it becomes a much more looked at plan now that you have tools to fix what you can measure.
So to that point, I hear now about benchmarking, understanding what you have. So tell me, how come clients, today they come in even to a Telx facility and they say, hey, I need 500 kW, but then when you look at what they're actually drawing is nowhere near that. So what's the difference? I mean, can the equipment really support the power requirements that these companies think they have? Is it really benchmarking? Really, what are we seeing towards power utilization and how much power customers can really draw based on what they're deploying?
You're getting a lot of that based on old data from where they were 5 years ago to where they are today, right? But what they don't realize is everything's getting more efficient. You look at supercomputers, IBM's got one now, it's 50 kilowatts in a cabinet, and it requires no supplemental cooling because the liquid cooling's on the processor. So if you look at, if you say, well, 10 years ago I had X, now I need X based, this is what I'm building out for because I think in 10 years that's what I'm going to need. That's what's really shifting because everybody's getting more energy efficient. So if you plan for those old capacities, you're missing something in the middle.
So Intel talks about those Nehalem chips, and they're supposed to be more efficient. Are we really seeing that? I mean, it can't be used for every application. So, there's this debate. Do the data centers need more power or don't they? I mean, do we really need to build out to 300 watts a foot or greater, or is it really 150 watts, or is it 2 kW to a cabinet, or is it 10? What are you folks seeing?
I think the natural trend is to use every bit of capacity that you have. Regardless of what technologies you deploy, you tend to head that way to more. When we looked at virtualization, the key issue was space. People were trying to recover space, and immediately we said, okay, once they virtualize, they're going to free up a lot of space. Well, that really didn't happen. They virtualized, and then they started to expand the virtualized devices that they had. So I think the natural trend is that people always push the limits of the capacity that they have, regardless of the technology they deploy.
So the virtualization can, in some cases, free up some space, but what does happen is it impacts the power. So you have these high-density rows, right, at 15 to 30 kW per rack. And so you're really just shifting, you're kind of shifting that power. But just one other point with the data centers, it's understanding what you're running in a data center in terms of the application workload. Because we find that large financials, for instance, they run apps that are legacy apps that are no longer required, but they're still turned on and they're still running in the data center. So we go through these massive assessments and we uncover huge amounts of workload that isn't necessary. And unless you undertake this type of project, right, to do this assessment, understand what you're running, you're just moving, you're moving from one, you're moving legacy from here, and you're moving to your colo or to a new facility.
Perfect point.